Hello crafties, welcome to another video. My name is Infiniti and I am here with yet another tutorial knit along. So at this point you guys have already learned how to knit from me. I did that very beginning, how to knit for beginners video. I did how to knit in the round. I've been doing this tutorial series on Wednesdays here lately for knitting stitches, things like that. Trying to spread the love around to all my crafty friends, because for a while there I was just doing crochet videos rather. But anywho, today I'm here with another knit along project for you guys who want to just specifically knit. I usually in my knitting projects I incorporate a little bit of crochet, and I don't think it's that out the norm to do. For this specific knitting tutorial, all you have to know how to do is, for one, do a knit stitch. So like casting on, doing the regular garter stitch, and then in the very end we're going to be doing a little bit of crochet, but it's going to be with single crochets, and you're going to want to know how to sew on buttons. That is like literally it. So you guys are like, Infiniti, what are you going to have us making this time? So if you guys remember, or you probably don't remember if you're fairly new, some time ago I made up different face masks for my friends. Actually, you know what, that first one was more so for myself, but I ended up giving it to a friend because he modeled for me, so had to compensate somehow. I made another one for a different friend, and right now, probably as this video is going up, I am working on a white one for another friend. So these are fun gifts for the winter. They help keep the ears and this area extra cozy, because I don't know about you guys, wherever you guys are situated, but in January in Missouri, oh no honey, so you're gonna want something to protect your face. And so I thought, this is also a good gift idea, and I am going to actually write up the written pattern for this one and put it over on my coffee blog, so you guys can check that out later. They're quick little projects and perfect stocking stuffers, that's all I gotta say. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this knit along. Of course, I'm going to put my materials list in my description box, so if you guys want to get the stuff that I'm using, you can easily find it, because it kind of sucks trying to find stuff that people use. Or it's just awkward when you ask, or at least for me, I'm so painfully shy. It's like, I don't really want to ask them, but I do wonder where they got it from, especially if they don't mention it. So okay, enough with my rambling, let's get started. Alright, so now I am featuring my empty desk space, but no. Today, like I said, we're going to be working on my face mask. So what I have here for materials today are my actually new favorite knitting needles that I have. They are from Furls Crochet, and these are the 5mm. If you guys know my crafting style, you guys know that I always say the standard or the basic, any kind of tool, whether you're knitting or crochet, is that 5mm size. I also have this beautiful recycled silk. It's quote-unquote super bulky. It's called Catskill Fireworks. It is pulled silk and sari silk. It's about 50 yards of it, and I promise that's all you'll need. The gauge for it is actually, the knitting gauge for it is from an 8 to a 12mm, or a US size 11. And crochet, they recommend a 15mm, or aka a size 13, or a Q size. Yeah, no. No, not for this, because like you pull it up and it's basically the size of any good old worsted weight yarn. So that's how I roll. I'm going to reach over here and grab my scissors. I don't have my Altoid tin with me right now, but for the next part I probably will. Probably. And so I'm just going to, now this is handy because it comes in a little cake. So you should be able to find that center string. I always recommend finding that center string because it helps later when you're like trying to pull the yarn And I don't know, I just prefer center pull. Now if you want to roll yours up into a ball, that is perfectly fine. Just do what's comfortable for you. But what's comfortable for me today is this center pull cake. And I'm going to, of course, pull out a tail. I'm gonna say at least 12 inches long, because I like to do long tail cast-ons. So if you don't know how to cast on, like I said, I do have several beginner tutorials back on the channel. So go ahead, I'm gonna leave those at the end of this video. I'm gonna remind myself to leave them at the end of this video, so feel free to do that. So what I'm gonna do is create a slip knot, and I'm going to insert my needle just like that and kind of cinch it closed very loosely so I can still work into it. And what I'm going to do is put my thumb and my index finger between my dangly yarn, and I'm going to make sure my tail is to the back and my working yarn is to the front. And I'm going to do this. I hope that's a good visual. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put the point of my needle under that first loop around my thumb, bring it up through that loop, and come around to this strand on my index finger and pull it through like that. There's a glare on my screen. Let me adjust that. Okay. I'm going to do that again. And this is casting on. So, you know, for this video, I always have my locking stitch markers handy. Now, I am going to cast on about 24. 24 sounds good. Usually it's about 24 when I do these. And if you wanted to keep count, you could like close these locking stitch markers and just slide them on. Of course, they'll slide off once you get ready to like transfer your stitches between your needles. But I won't need those again because it's such a small project. I don't really need to keep too much of a count. All I need to know is that I'm casting on 24. So I already have 4, so there's 20 more to go. I'm going to go ahead and cast on those 20. Alright, so I'm going to do a quick recount because, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So like I said, I usually do 24 depending on the yarn, and this 24 is about, I want to say 6.5 inches. I never have my tape measure with me. I should be ashamed of myself as a crafter. Okay, so this is about, I want to say this would go up from about my chin up to my nose, which is cool. Because again, if you have your turtlenecks on in the winter, you just put this on with your coat and you're just pretty much good to go. If you wanted it longer, you could actually cast on more stitches. I know in the past I have cast on about 35 to 40 for some of mine, but for the most part I do like 24. So now what I can do is pick up my other knitting needle. This project typically takes one skein or one of these little cakes or rounds, so that's super handy. And I have quite a few of these laying around, and I'm just like, this idea came to me one day, and I was just like, you know what, I need to get rid of these. So we're just going to move on to row 2. We're going to, like I said, be doing the garter stitch. So what you want to do is take this empty needle and you're going to insert it from the back of the stitch, like, and make sure it comes out the back like a little X. And you're going to knit one, and you can slide it off. Now this yarn isn't very glidey, so that's why I stressed keeping your stitches loose. But if you're not using this yarn, then work accordingly. Okay, and we're just gonna knit across this entire row. Alright, so I did a knit stitch across all 24 of those stitches in row 1. So, I'm sorry, row 2. So now we can move on to row 3. And we're just going to do the same thing. So, usually these things consist of 94 rows. I actually sat up and counted it one day and I was like, oh my gosh, 94 rows. But in knitting, it's really not that daunting. They do go by a little bit slower than they would in crochet, and you wouldn't need as many rows in crochet. But I don't know. I don't know why I knit these things. I think one day I was just like, ooh, scarf, but then I didn't have enough yarn and I was just like, ooh, face mask. So anyway, it was one of those trial and error type things that was actually fruitful. But yeah, I really love these knitting needles. Like, I'm not sponsored by them at all, but they're so, like, they're very smooth. First of all, they're very smooth and they kind of flex with you, so you have to keep that in mind if you're heavy-handed. But they flex with you and it makes it comfortable for your hands to like work with. Plus they're just so darn pretty. They're so darn pretty. But this project goes by relatively quick. I know, in a couple days. It's like I don't just sit up straight and work on my project. In a couple of days I can actually get one of these bad boys churned out and get started on a new one, and that's awesome for me. These are some very autumnal colors. I love the fall. Like, this literally should have been named Autumn. Alright, so that was row 3. And if you ever wonder about counting your stitches, I know it's super confusing because, like, I don't know if any of you tuned along or tuned in with my my Knit It Shrug knit along. But counting your stitches, counting your rows rather, is very important. So of course you can always count the number of stitches you have by counting these loops on your needle, and that's fairly easy for us because we know we cast on 24 and they're not all bunched together. Like, you can easily pull these apart with your other knitting needle and just count them through. But the rows can be tricky. The rows can be tricky. And so the way I was taught was to look at these little ridges, and each of these ridges is formed by 2 rows. So these bumps that, like, how do I explain that? Like this row. These bumps were made up by 2 rows, and then row 3 we just finished that. So by the time we actually do row 4, there's going to be another set of these little bumpy stitches, and that's going to be 4 rows, and so on and so forth. So you would just count each of these ridges by 2s. So for today's knit along, part of the knit along, we are going to knit up, let's knit up 25 rows. Well, no, let's do even number. Let's knit up 30 rows, because even numbers make for easy counting. And the next part of our knit along, we will be just knitting and knitting and knitting. Like I said, this project only takes 94 rows of knitting, so it's fairly easy. And I'll meet y'all back when we have 30 rows. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. Just ask, feel free, or you can message me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm even on Reddit. So, just check out the iwhitley.car.co link. That's basically your master link to all my social media. Feel free to contact me, feel free to email me. I don't mind that either. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and subscribe. And until next time, happy making.